Thank you, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tony Turner, and I'm the chairman of the Central Middle School Building Committee. This is an official meeting of the Central Middle School Building Committee. So with that, I would like to call the meeting to order, and I think the time is 6:32. And if you will, please stand with me for Pledge of Allegiance on flags on my right. Thank you again for attending. And I just want to make sure several people have asked about this. This is not the celebration of life service for Jimmy Buffett. Just want to be sure that everyone noted that. That's our humor for this evening. I on a serious note, do want to welcome you to our fourth community engagement with somewhat of a different format tonight than we've had before. We've had different styles of public meetings or community engagement forums. One was a presentation by the professionals with questions submitted either online or through index cards. We've also had another where we've had presentation by the professionals, and we took questions live from the audience as well as online and index cards. Tonight's a little different. We'll have a presentation from the professionals. No questions tonight, but we have 29 people that have signed up to, and they did so before our expiration today at noon, 29 people that have signed up to make comments to the building committee and to the professionals, noting that we have a 3-minute time limit for each of those public comments. With that, let me go to the agenda, and you can see here on the screen. This is the agenda for the Kim. Can we go to the? There we go. This is the agenda for our presentation this evening. I'm going to talk about the first two slides, the role of the building committee and why a new middle school now. Then we'll hear from SLAM, the SLAM Collaborative, from our team members there, and of course Turner Construction, no relation by the way, and also from Jim Giuliano from Construction Solutions Group, who is our owner's rep in the process here. Let me begin with the role of the building committee, and I think it's important, if we could go to the next slide. I think it's important that we recap that for a moment. Let's see if we can get the next slide up. Okay. First of all, there's really two roles of the building committee in this entire project. The first of all is to build a school strictly, and I'm quoting the town charter, strictly in adherence to the educational specifications and the requirements as filed by the Board of Education. It's really straightforward and simple. That's one of the key things that we're bound by. The other duty of the committee is that, and again I quote, is that we shall make a request for the appropriation to build the building. So that has been, or those two items have been our laser focus since the very beginning, and will continue to be so. Working within those two main foci of the committee, as you might know, not only are we bound by the curriculum, which is a key driver of the educational specifications and the requirement, there's also regulatory bodies that we have to work with, both local, state, and federal. We have a unique geological makeup of the property, of the 22-acre campus, that we're bound by also. So as we've done our work, we've taken those factors into consideration. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've looked at 9 different building layout options. We've looked at 8 different site plans. We've been very discerning in our process. And what you're going to see tonight is the final decision as to what we are or will be presenting from a funding standpoint down the road. Again, noting that we've done a tremendous amount of work in looking at these options. 9 building layout options, 8 site plan options. And then lastly, I think it's important that you not only see the committee's work tonight, but also that you have a sense of what we've been doing since we came together and were formed in July of last year. We've been working together for 14 months. We've had over 70 meetings. We've had 11 design review committee meetings, 3 community forums. Tonight is our 4th with its first public hearing. We've had 3 meetings exclusively with perimeter neighbors, and we are made up of 9 voting members, 5 ex officio members, and 4 community liaisons. And given this work, it's only proper that I ask the committee members that are in the room, if you could please stand and let's give these guys a round of applause for all the work they've done thus far. Will you please stand? Okay, next is why a new Central Middle School now, and it's really straightforward. If we could go to the next slide and look closely at the headline that you see on the screen, it's really simple. As you can see, this headline from the Greenwich Press in February of last year, it says, following assessment of the Central Middle School physical condition, the school is closed. And the reason for that is, first of all, if you look at the age of the building, the primary of the vast majority of the building was built in 1958. There was a small addition in 1999, and it has significant structural issues. Some of them have been retrofitted and some have been reinforced with a 5-year expected life. And if you look forward at a typical timeline of a project of this magnitude, approximately 2 years to design the building, produce construction documents, and then start construction, you have approximately 2 years total for both bidding the project as well as actual construction time. And then you have approximately 6 months of demolition and abatement of the existing building, and then, of course, finishing out the fields. If you put that timeline together, guess what? It's almost 5 years, and that's 5 years from a year ago. So I want to be sure to communicate that there is a real sense of urgency that we continue the project and move this forward as quickly as we can. And I'll be saying a little more about that later. I'm going to turn it over now to Slam to talk about the building design overview.
Great, thanks, Tony. The design team's been working on this for over 6 months, and stepping back to those first couple of weeks on the project, we met with a committee and we had some really powerful conversations about some guiding principles. We ran some workshops, tried to look for as much feedback as we could early in the process. So we keep coming back to some of these guiding principles, and these are kind of summarized as bullet points, but they've really helped us as a design team and the building committee reached some really critical decisions throughout the entire design process. So just to summarize them, we've been looking at purposeful and resilient design right from the beginning. And we've been working with the educators principal here to try to foster engaged learning and really best design spaces to support that, as well as exploring a lot of sustainable actions. These guiding principles have been a common thread right through the entire design process and kind of landed us where we are today. You can see the rendering here is depicting the character that's been developed to this point. And we continue to develop some of these the character sketches. The building itself sits on the central middle school site, the existing site, and I think everybody understands the premise of the project, that there's an existing building on site. We're going to build a new building where the existing playfields are, get that completed, tear down the existing building, and then build playfields where the existing building is. One of the things that we talked a lot about was just the perception of entering that site, how the building would be organized and how it would feel. A lot of those guiding principles helped form the architectural character The design team's been working really hard on developing these 3D renderings to just communicate the character that we envision for the new Central Middle School. This view that you're looking at would be coming down the new main entry drive. It's actually the parent drive where the parents would be coming in, queuing up, getting as close to the front door as they could, dropping their student off and turning and coming back out. You can see how the building fits back into the site really nicely. You can see the trees sitting up behind this two-story building and how the whole building kind of nestles into that northern part of the site. I'll show you the site plan in a little bit, but I think the character of the school is really, really important at this point. Moving a little closer into the building, I mentioned that the parent loop loops in really close to the front door, so you can see how the front entry is really evident. We're trying to use some really sustainable materials, the exterior skin. You also see some hints of sustainability on the roof. We're anticipating photovoltaics on the roof, and all the renderings that we're developing depict that, and we're trying to find a common thread and a theme throughout the entire design of the school to be sustainable. The other thing that we've talked a lot about is safety for the students and staff. Anybody that's coming on site, it's been a recurring conversation, and every one of the decisions that we make as we develop the floor plan and the site goes back to the question, are we creating a safer site for the students and staff and anybody that's on site? And the answer is always a resounding yes. And I think the building committee's been really, really aware of that and cognizant of the decisions that we've made. Also looking on the inside of the building, the wood character actually replicates itself and turns into the building. We're looking as one of the sustainable avenues that we're exploring is looking at timber construction and cross laminate timber roofs and beams in the structure of the building. So this is just a rendering of the main lobby. So this would be a secure lobby. Any visitor coming to the school would come through this space into the main lobby. You have to check into the main office. But you can see how the character on the inside of the building is beginning to replicate what you saw on the outside in the 3D renderings as well. One of the really, really important things is not just the exterior skin and what it looks like, but really the educational values. So as we move into the building and start designing the floor plan, it's been absolutely critical to work with Tom and his staff to make sure that we are meeting not only the Board of Ed's program requirements and their educational specifications. There's a lot of interesting descriptions and adjacencies that are super important in that document. So as a check and balance, we're always having conversations with Tom and his staff to see, just to confirm that we are providing kind of the best educational value in the floor plans and that interior character that is depicted in some of these renderings.
For the interior of the building, which is clearly more my area of expertise, it's been great to work very closely with the team. As Jim just pointed out, there's been a lot of back and forth from the EdSpec process into the actual layout of the building, and we've gone through numerous phases and options here. And what we love about this particular layout of the building is how it really supports our educational experience for our students and what middle school is really all about for them. It's really student focused, and it's really centered on what their needs are at a critical time in their lives. So if we want to go to the next slide, what we also love about being central is that we are a community space as well. We are frequently rented out by various community groups, and we want to maintain that level of partnership with our community in the best possible way. So in looking at the design of the first floor, it really meets all of our educational needs and school-based needs through the layout of all of the spaces down below, with the auditorium being a central focus, the gym and cafeteria off to the left, and then sort of our media center toward the back, with the offices and counseling space over to the right with some of our other electives. So really the student experience when they spend their 2 periods a day in their elective classes. It's all located on that first floor, but yet after hours, when these areas may be used for performances or rentals, these areas can be closed off to the rest of the school, and therefore we can keep separate sort of that community use from the student academic spaces. And I know our custodians also find that quite helpful. We spend a lot of time discussing orientations and adjacencies, and also light. The courtyard in the middle, it's very important to have natural light in our classrooms for learning. It makes a positive learning experience for kids, and so how we were able to bring that in while nestling into the back of the hill was something important, and that's where this courtyard sort of came in and provided opportunities for art and other areas to bring that light and media center as well. So we're very excited about this. There were other iterations that sort of had the kitchen separated from the cafeteria, but placing it where it was now, or where it is located now, really has great flow for the students, and is going to make for an optimal lunch experience, because as you may have heard me talk about before, scheduling grade level lunches is really important for the social aspect of what students go through in middle school when they're separated into different teams. So having one large cafeteria that students can move through the kitchen, get their food, eat, and still get out for about a 15-minute recess is really important. So those adjacencies are really critical here. Next slide. And then the upper wings, this is an ideal situation. If anyone knows the, oh, I need to be louder. It really is. The problem is I'm using a microphone. I'm used to just bellowing. So the upper floor, which is our academic areas, are really very exciting for us as a middle school team. Currently, we have our 6th graders somewhat in what we would call an academic neighborhood, but our 7th and 8th graders are actually split, and 7th grade is really split upstairs and downstairs, which makes it harder for collaboration among our teachers, but also the way that the students interact with each other throughout the day. So having 3 academic neighborhoods based on grade, and then having the adjacencies of the classrooms where the students can be organized in their 2 teams, which hopefully you've heard why we described it. The teaming model, where you have a group of teachers centered around a group of students, is critical to this particular point in time. So you will see we have all of the academic classrooms that we need for those teams in each of those neighborhoods. And then in the pink area there, what we've called our sort of collaborative spaces or dispersed learning spaces. This was square footage that we borrowed from the media center. So it's not added square footage, it was just reallocated. And in talking to the teachers and seeing what goes on day to day, the students spend a lot of time working together and collaborating in various classes, and they utilize our current hallway, sitting on the floor with their long legs blocking us from walking by, as it goes. So having an actual dedicated space for each of those academic neighborhoods where kids can break out and engage in cooperative learning and collaboration is really important. It really also is, it's something that we value here in the district. Whether you go back and look at our vision of the graduate, which has been a guiding document for a long time with our interpersonal capacities, or whether you look at current educational research, and John Hattie has done a lot of work to examine cooperative learning, and it has a very, very high effect size on student achievement. So we really feel it's important to have included that dedicated space for cooperative learning near each academic neighborhood as a direct correlation to an increase in student achievement. So we're really excited about the way that these stairs, come up from the downstairs floor, can work with traffic flow and less crowded hallways. And then students can also get into their academic neighborhoods where the teachers can work collaboratively, the students can work cooperatively, and really focus on, their academic experience, but also be organized to support all of their needs. Which is also why, again, in discussions with our staff, you see the blue areas up there. We have what are listed here as floor captains, but it's probably easier to think of them as assistant principals' offices. having administration and possibly even some mental health support closer to where the students spend most of their time was very purposeful. And that is why we added that design up there, so that while there would be a principal's office and more traditional administrative space down below, there were connections directly to where the kids are upstairs. So again, thinking about what the ed specs were from the very beginning, how much space we needed and for what, and teachers having their classrooms and kids moving about the building and working together, to see it come together and design in this way where they really are having that proximity and relationship is extremely important, and then something that we're very excited about.
So I think that demonstrates the interactive nature between the design team and the educators. We've had so many conversations kind of grounded in this educational foundation. And I think it's been a pleasure for the design team to work with them and start to bring all of those theories to rest. And as we design the floor plan, some of the things that Tom's talking about began to just become obvious as we organized the building. So you can see a really clear vertical separation between all those community spaces on the first floor and the academic spaces on the second floor. And as we talk through the basic organization of how the team, each grade works, how the teams work, and the illusion of like a neighborhood, a smaller learning environment, it really began to embody all of those theories and thoughts that Tom and his staff wanted to achieve in the building. So that it was an integral part of the design process as we work through it. And it's really why the floor plan has been developed and been organized to the point that it is. And I think it's grounded in a lot of reason. And I think it's going to be a very usable and efficient plan. Okay, the other important thing is that the building plan has to fit on the site nicely. Like I alluded to the fact that we're building on the existing play fields, going to tear down the existing building and then build new play fields. This view is actually looking across the new play field, looking at the building at the far north side of the site, and you begin to see the two-story nature around the far left-hand side of this rendering. You can see how the topography starts to climb. There's a two-story building in the front, and as the topography climbs around the left-hand side of this building, it turns into a one-story building on the back. And that really gave us some cues as to how the building was organized. So on the back side, it's really just a one-story building. We're facing all those neighbors to the north. This rendering also alludes to the fact of the sustainability. You begin to see those photovoltaic panels on the roof and really kind of putting that technology on display, and so that the students see it and inquire about it every single day. We think it's an important part of the day for the students, a great learning opportunity. So looking at the overall site, I'm just going to do a real high level view here. You can see the white mass is the proposed building on the far north-hand side, north end of the site. And you can see how it kind of splays out into three different angles, and it fits right into the topography. There's some natural topography where the play fields end, the tree line starts on the north side and then climbs up a fairly steep slope there. So we are pushing the building into that slope to take advantage of the topography to give us grade access on the first floor and second floor, which opens up a number of opportunities for us. It also pushes the building as far north on the site as we're comfortable and creates a lot of space where the existing building is currently sitting. And that gives us the opportunity to reorganize the play fields that are required as part of the program. The other important thing that we've been looking at is traffic around the entire site. We've had a lot of conversations with the neighbors, and we've changed the access to the site quite a bit. So coming in off Indian Rock on the south side, we've limited to a single entry where parents are going to enter, loop all the way up to the front door, turn and come back out. The majority of the staff will also park in this area. We are trying to separate the buses, and now this floor or the site plan is proposing this, all the buses come in off Orchard in a one-way loop. They would come in at the just south of Coach Lamp So that would be a one-way bus loop in. They would stack along the east side of the building, drop the students off, and then loop back out to Orchard, and then take a right out of there. So that it's a really nice, clean separation between all the buses and parents. We're trying to create that safe separation for the students and staff and parents that are all entering the site in the morning and leaving it in the afternoon. A very busy parts of the day there. So zooming in on the site just a little bit, this is the south portion. So once the existing building gets torn down, it gives us the opportunity to reorient all the play fields. So you can see a full-size softball field at the far south end of the site, a full-size baseball field, and an overlapping rectangular field. We looked at a number of different play field layouts here. And this seemed to be an optimal layout because the ideal orientation for baseball and softball is a northwest or northeast orientation for the outfield. Right now, the play fields are not oriented that way. They're oriented in the exact opposite direction. So we're able to create some space on the site, reorient all those play fields, keep the 4 tennis courts that you see in the bottom right portion of the site, and rework the long entry drive. So you can see how the long entry drive comes in off of Indian Rock, and there's a little dedicated semicircular parking area, and we're trying to reuse a good portion of the existing parking so that we're not eliminating trees in that portion of the site. And then the last slide that I have here shows the northern part of the site, which is the new building, and it zooms in on some of the key aspects of the site. You can see how the parent loop comes in right near the front door of the school on the bottom portion here. And then up around the back side of the site, around the building, we're providing a fire lane, which would be a controlled access. It would be gated. So that if the fire department did need to access the building, they'd be able to come in off Orchard or from Indian Rock and do a loop all the way up and around that building. During the course of the day, the students are going to have free access to that as well. We're planning some outdoor learning areas up in that area, and it will be gated, so there won't be vehicles, except for in the case of an emergency up around there. You can also see the service areas we're anticipating at the lower left portion of the building. There's a kitchen delivery service area. And then coming in off Orchard in the upper right corner of the building, there's a custodial storage drop-off area as well, service area. So just as a real high-level view of the building and the site, I think we can wrap it up and turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Can we go back just 2 slides and maybe look at the large overview of the property? I want to be sure to connect with the perimeter neighbors, and I see Warren and Susan here that have been just fantastic at attending our meetings and giving us input and so forth. We heard very directly from the neighbors that Orchard Street is a racetrack. Some weren't quite so nice about it, but that's the message that we took away. And once we understood it, we did, of course, conduct numerous traffic studies from different angles. I think it's important to point out that we are going down the path of pursuing a number of things to help reduce the speed on Orchard. One is speed tables, crossing lights, speed cameras, and stop signs. We don't know the details of those items yet, but we do know what they cost, which is we've earmarked $50,000 in the budget for that. We hope to partner with DPW on it, but I want to be very sure to connect with the perimeter neighbors that we've not only heard you, but we've tried to be very thoughtful and address your concerns through some of the more current safety items that I just described. So I just want to be sure to add that in for the neighbors.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes and walk through the project costs and the cost analysis. So where we're going to start here is go through the executive summary, which is backed up by over 40 pages of detail and supporting information that gets us to these numbers. And it's important to point out that this is the project team's schematic estimate, at a summary level. So I'll walk down through here, again, looking at the first section here for construction cost of the building. The new school being built in the existing field, foundations through the roofing structure and the finishes on the inside. Current estimated value at schematic of $78,572,000. Then we hit with buildings, the abatement of the existing school, which we're sitting in. Going through and getting the abatement done here of the hazardous material is $1,601,000. And then the demolition of this school, the mass demolition right through foundations removal and disposal is $2,285,000 for a subtotal on the building side of $82,458,000. We then separate the site work. And as Tony had said earlier, this campus is 22 acres. So we break it down into two pieces. The first being the initial site work. This is coming in, doing site demolition, tree removals, excavation to get down to subgrade for the building, right through the hardscape landscape, the asphalt curbing and landscaping. That piece of the site work is valued at $8,676,000. And then the final piece is once this building comes down, we have the field work over here, and again, right through hardscape and landscape with asphalt paving and sidewalks for another $6,571,000. That brings the construction cost, which is everything that would be under Turner Construction, to $97,708,000. There's another piece that gets added to that, which we term soft cost. These soft costs include items like the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the desks and the chairs that go in the school. These are architectural and design fees. This is your building commissioning agent that would be hired. And this is a budget that is managed by CSG, your owner's project manager. And there's a very thorough level of detail that brings this value of soft cost to $14,311,961. So the total project cost for the project right now at a schematic level is $112,016,961. It's important to go through the process of how we get here and how we arrive at these numbers. So I had started this by saying this is a project team estimate. So we were tasked with performing a schematic design estimate, as well as SLAM and their estimating team was tasked with performing a schematic design estimate. These were independent of each other. This was done, in our own bubble, no collaboration during the period of about 3 weeks to be able to perform this estimate. Once these estimates were completed, and again, going through the process of these estimates, we used the schematic design package that is issued by SLAM. This includes the drawings. This includes narratives for all the material specifications for what's going to go in the building. It includes the educational specifications and the information that's available to them. It also includes the building information model and the model that is created by SLAM. We use that information to do our takeoffs. We count doors, we count windows, we do square foot of wall, cubic yards of concrete. All that's put together so we have a takeoff of quantities of materials that are going to go into the building. From there, we need to then apply unit costs. Those unit costs come from historical data, benchmark data from recently bid work in this territory and in this region. Also comes from market analysis and market input. So, for example, if the air handling unit that's going to go in this building is selected, we can go to the market and get today's dollars for that air handling unit. So all that information is performed by us. It's performed by SLAM's estimating team, and it's done, again, independently of one another without any collaboration between us. Once that's done, we have a reconciliation phase. So at that point, we get the schematic design estimate from SLAM. We give them theirs, and we spent about another week, many long days and long hours going through every detail of that 40 plus pages of every component of the building. There's ups, there's downs, there's modifications, there's changes that happen throughout that phase. And then we arrive at what we call the reconciled project cost estimate. Here, we also went to another level where we went through a value management phase. That value management phase, Turner, SLAM, CSG, we sat in a room and we came up with cost savings opportunities. We had a list of things, some that impacted the educational specs, some that didn't, but we presented some things that we thought could be considered to be able to reduce cost. Those items were presented to the building committee. They're presented to the Board of Ed. We received input from the building committee, from the Board of Ed, from CMS directly, from Board of Ed facilities and other departments and commissions in town. And we're able to accept some of them and decline on other ones. All that came together in the value that you see today of the 112,016,961, which again gets us to where we are today as a project team schematic design estimate for the drawings that we have and the design we have today.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. The slide that we have on the screen now is what I would consider to be a next level down of detail of the numbers. And we wanted to be sure to communicate a couple of things with this slide. First, maybe we'll go across the top line together. This is the same information on the previous slide. It's just been dropped into an Excel spreadsheet. So if you go across the top for the new school, 125,407 square feet. The cost in today's dollars, I'm not going to read all the numbers for you, but you can see as we go across that we've also calculated the cost with escalation factor. That's simply that prices are going up. And as I described earlier, we have about a 2-year process for design, development, and construction documents, approximately a 2-year process for bidding and construction, and then another half year of demolition and abatement of this building, and then, of course, working on the fields. And as you take into consideration escalation of prices over that period of time, you can see on the far right, or next to the last column on the right, the delta due to the escalation. That is the difference between the cost of the project in today's dollars versus the escalation factor in the future. And as you can see, with each of the main 6 streams of work on the project, we've given you the square footage, of course, with the exception of soft cost, as Tim described that earlier, but we've given you the square footage, we've given you the cost of each of those items, and showing the delta over on the right. As Tim mentioned, gets us to $112,016,961. The most recent calculation of the projected state reimbursement, $7.1 million, with the projected net cost to the town of $104.8 million. And again, I want to be sure to emphasize that these are only estimates at this time, but we do have confidence. We do have confidence in what we've put before you. And in the upper right-hand corner, building only per square foot with escalation for future dollars, $627 per square foot. That is a segue into the next slide. I was quite surprised when these numbers came through, and that is specifically the regulatory cost involved in the project. And let me just go down the list for a moment and talk about the different, and this is not the entire list, but this is the primary list of regulatory bodies that we're having to deal with. The Connecticut State Department of Education, the American Disabilities Act, the Building Code, the Fire Code, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, the Town of Greenwich, the Connecticut School Safety Program, the State of Connecticut, and Connecticut High Performance Building Standards. That's just to name a few. And as this analysis shows, if we look at the building only in the top half of the slide, roughly 12,717 square feet can be attributed to regulatory requirements. Now, keep in mind that the new proposed building is only approximately 15,000 square feet larger than the building that we're sitting in today. So you can see there's a significant portion driven by regulations. And then the second half of the screen is regulatory cost related to the initial site work, pre-demolition, and then post-site work, final site work post-demolition. That's 1.6 million with a total of 9.6 million. And as I said earlier, this is what we know about so far. But I think what's very important that we realize is that many of the regulations that I read off earlier, be it ADA, be it IDEA, Connecticut School Safety Program, they didn't exist in 1958. And we are under a microscope today to make sure that we meet absolutely all of these regulations. And in doing so, it's adding us a material cost to the building. Yep.
All right, and our final slide under the cost, right, this is more for information. This is the Turner Building Cost Index. This is something that is published by Turner on a quarterly basis, and this is on our website if you'd like to go there for more information on it. But on the top right, what this is showing us is from 2019 to 2023, what the index has done. So you could see it peaked out there in 2020, it dropped back down, and it's been on a gradual rise ever since to the second quarter of 2023. Down in the bottom right, in the chart that runs up the bottom right, starts in 2010, and it'll show you the percent change of the index from 2010 right through the second quarter of 2023. What's important to note on this is national. This is related to factors such as labor rates, productivity, and material prices on a national level. So this isn't specific here to the Connecticut region or here in Greenwich. This is national. One of the biggest factors that has been driving this as of recently is the competitive conditions of the marketplace. So again, that's a factor that drives this as well. So this is information that is available on our website. Should you like to see it, the third quarter will be posted once the third quarter closes. But this is just information that shows what's been happening in the building industry over the last few years.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Giuliano from Construction Solutions Group. I'm going to talk, if you can go on to the next slide, Jim, about what we've done and where we are and where we are going. So back in late April, the Board of Ed approved the final educational specifications, which allowed SLAM to begin the design process. And the first step in that design process is the conceptual design. That was done mid to late May of this year. And then Turner did a conceptual design estimate, which is a very brief, abbreviated estimating exercise to kind of understand where we are budget-wise. From there, SLAM continued with design. They did the schematic design. They finished that around the end of June. And then, as Tim had mentioned, both Turner and SLAM estimating teams got together and, well, separately did their estimates for the schematic design. During the schematic design estimating process, we did have our P&Z pre-application meeting, and that went well with SLAM. And then after the schematic design estimate was reconciled, the value management items were reviewed and determined by the building committee as how we're going to be moving forward. That kicked off the design development phase of the project, which was about 2 weeks ago. And then from within the design development phase, we're going to be going through our MI process and approvals. And then once that's been completed, we'll be getting final town funding. And then we will be submitting the state grant application.
Can we go back just one slide? Jim talked about next steps, and Jim, thank you. I do want to talk about the schedule because there's been a significant change. So I want to be sure to update everyone on that. I have to deliver some unfortunate news, but that's part of the role, part of my role to do so. So as you know, there are many regulatory requirements for public projects, and only yesterday we were made aware of another one that will impact all town projects, including the Central Middle School. And I want to emphasize again, all town projects, including Central Middle School. I want to be very clear. This development is a major major setback for the project. Currently, the committee is working as quickly as possible to determine the revised timeline and the total project impact. However, let there be no doubt that this development will, number one, delay the project, number two, increase its cost, if not materially so, and delay the move-in time for the students. Yesterday afternoon, I met with our first selectman, Fred Camillo, and the chairman of the BET committee, Dan Ozesmir, among others, to collaborate and talk about next steps given this recent development. I'm happy to say that I asked for and I received their total commitment to help move the project ahead as quickly as possible to complete this town-related regulatory process. Our professionals sitting to my right and to my left, they too have committed and will be providing regular and public updates on this effort every week, starting next week. So to conclude this schedule update, I want to assure you, the town of Greenwich, that the building committee, we are as committed today and intensely so as we were when we first started 14 months ago to deliver a 21st century school capable of housing the advanced curriculum that exists in this school today, that is safe, that is highly energy efficient for a targeted range of students of between 440 and 660, that eases traffic stress and is fully compliant with all the regulations that I shared with you earlier and more. The building committee will remain positive. We should not spend our time looking back, questioning the facts and circumstances around this development. That should not be the focus of the committee. Questioning is for others, and question they must. We will look through the windshield as a committee and far ahead to conquer this hurdle and the many others that we have beyond it. We will do this through teamwork that is objective, has perspective, and is strategic so that we all benefit. And let me assure you, we will seek interim funding in a vigorous way and in a preferred partnership with the Board of Education. I wish I could give you more detail on the timeline and an updated cost from what we saw here earlier tonight, but we will be providing additional information and updates as soon as they become available. Now, what I'd like to do is to let's advance our slide and go to the public hearing portion of our meeting tonight, which is agenda item number 3 on our agenda. With that, let me begin to share with you just the parameters of the public input session that we're moving to next. First of all, just a friendly reminder, we've been publishing and promoting this public forum for some time now, approximately 10 days. We have 29 speakers tonight that have signed up, allowing 3 minutes each for their input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call 3 speakers at a time so that you can make your way to the podium to help us with time management, of course, for the evening. And we truly, truly welcome what you have to say. So first, the first 3 speakers are Vincent DeMarco, Mike Spilo, and Ernst Schermer.
Hey, Tony, this is Mike Antonaccio. I'm going to be elevating the speakers that are remote, but if someone in the space could be in charge of the 3-minute timer and a 30-second warning, I believe committee member Claire Kirgallen would be a good choice to do that, unless you have someone in mind already. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, we're set. So Vincent DeMarco, Michael Spilo, and Ernst Schermer. Is Vincent DeMarco in the room or is he online?
I don't see Mr. DeMarco online. I'm not sure if he's in the room.
And I don't see him here either. So our next speaker is Mike Spilo. Mike Spilo is a member of our committee, the RTM representative. Mike, thank you for your service.
Green light. Is it on?
Test.
Gotta hold it. I don't know if I can manage that. Good evening. My name is Michael Spilo. As you were told, I'm the RTM representative to the CMS Building Committee. I joined the RTM in 2002 because good governance of our beautiful town is very important to me. I'm currently in my second term as chairman of the RTM Public Works Committee, formerly the Building Committee, and I serve as chairman of the RTM Labor Contracts Committee. I'm here to share with you my perspective on where we are. First, I believe the ed specs are excessive. Enrollment will be below 500 before the school is built and is projected to continue to decline through 2040. Despite this, the Board of Ed spec'd a school that can hold up to 924 students with overly large classrooms using 80% more square footage than required for team teaching in comparable schools throughout the state. These numbers have been confirmed by members of the Board of Ed. Surely there is a common sense approach to building our future enrollment. Second, the Building Committee has failed to keep the costs realistic. The Building Committee chose a single-story design built into the hill. This design covers 40% more land area than needed for, and independent experts have claimed this is a major driver of costs. After repeatedly voting not to consider or price alternatives, the committee paid $10,000 for an outside expert opinion. The expert identified $8 million in cost savings, which the committee ignored. Months of committee value engineering resulted in net savings of less than 1%. Lastly, the committee went to great lengths to shut down dissent, disregarding the town attorney taking multiple illegal votes and even threatening censure of those speaking out against this forced march towards a fiscal cliff. The two latest illegal votes happened just yesterday. They were supposedly done to expedite the project, but the project is not scheduled to break ground before October 2024, and there's really no urgency. The disregard for taxpayer dollars and attempts to silence those who question the plan and associated expenses are over a false urgency that and a sense that cost is irrelevant. There is no emergency. There's no expiry date on the repairs, and even $8 million in savings dwarfs any cost escalations.
30 seconds.
These issues, that the school is too large, a budget that has ballooned, and a committee intent on shutting down common sense are getting in the way of good governance, which is the responsibility of all concerns. We can fix this. We need a school building that's right for our kids and for our neighbors and for taxpayers, and this is easily achievable with the right leadership. I urge all those listening to write today to your RTM, Selectmen, and Board of Education and request that the Building Committee be reconstituted with people who understand the process, who will strive to provide great building with the right size without throwing taxpayer dollars away.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ernst Schermer. Ernst?
Thank you so much. Just so that everybody knows. Let you pop in here. One, hold it all the time.
No.
Can I hear myself? Okay, perfect. Ernst Schermer, local resident. I live within half a mile for the past 20 years. I'm a frequent user of this facility, both for sports as well as a moderator, facilitator for polling voting station activities when we have elections. Also, I do bicycle more than 3,000 miles and I walk more than 2,500 miles in Greenwich. I do know a lot about road safety. One of the big concerns I have is safe access to and from schools. I'd like to thank the committee. There's a lot of hard work. It's complex. It's not easy. You get a lot of noise from left and right, but I do want to really recognize the work you do. I do have some concerns, however, and the chair knows I've been speaking to him in March I encouraged him in May again. I was away for 2 months in Europe during the summer weeks, so I was quiet, but I'm still not happy. And I think you need to make improvements. Number one, better progress reporting. Please state total volunteering hours performed. It's amazing. Show that number. Number two, show the truth. How many dollars have been spent to date? And say to which 2-3 parties most dollars were spent so far. So give us a clear accounting of what is going on, please. As a moderator, polling station, I failed to see a little bit if we have 3,500 voters in person, how the flow would really work. I expressed that concern when we had the initial planning sessions more than a year ago. I never heard anything back about that. When I looked at the pictures again, ADA access and so on, how we would make that work on a 3,500 people day, I'm not sure. We need to please speak about that. Number three, as a neighbor and an active transportation participant, I do wear a helmet when I bike. The students should do that too. I don't really like enough the traffic study. This is the version as of May. I repeatedly asked that a public meeting be held to specifically address this. That costs our town money. There should be transparency how that works. This report correctly identifies two of the most problematic intersections we have in all of Greenwich. The very dangerous one, Stanwich Road, Fairfield Avenue. The other one, Indian Rock Lane going into Orchard. These are dangerous, dangerous places, okay? We're all here. We know about it. We have one deadly accident there. We're in the press. Just one other thing. Last Juneteenth, 19th of June, 4:10 in the afternoon, Mr. Chair, shared the pictures of the car that was on its roof. I saw the driver crawl out of a smashed window. Luckily, there was no school. However, it took more than 15 minutes for police to show up. Emergency vehicles could not come or Orchard because of a traffic jam, and two very smart drivers put their vehicles across the road so that the emergency vehicles couldn't even approach. This traffic study needs pictures and needs to be documented. Sorry for having taken too much time, but thank you so much. I do appreciate the work.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephen Reynolds. Michael, do you have Stephen on the line?
I do not see him online. The subsequent Michael Wolkin is online.
Okay, let's go ahead with Michael.
Mr. Wolkin, you may begin.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm actually going to waive my opportunity, but I do appreciate that the committee has put in massive amounts of time. Don't always agree with them, but I appreciate the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Peter Quigley. Mike, Peter is, oh, yes, hold on. Mr. Quigley is here, just making his way to the podium now.
Followed by Ms. Christine Edwards and Mark Abbott.
Good evening. You certainly have done a lot of work. I'm Peter Quigley. I'm a 4-term member of the RTM. District 3 today, District 7 for 3 terms. You've done a lot of work. It's a heady number you're asking in a very difficult time. This town requires capital improvements in a lot of other areas than for new schools. You may want to consider renovating the current one. And I think this auditorium was done just recently, since the RTM meets in this auditorium on a monthly basis. I want to talk very briefly to the environmental issues. I happen to be involved with a place called Ham Ave School, High School MISA project. Turner was involved with these programs. I'm going to talk with the Western Middle School. If you aren't familiar with those projects, then you should start to become familiar, because before this thing gets going with the MI, I'm going to be talking about soil testing and what kind of soil testing is being done at this site. I didn't hear any reference to soil testing, and I mean soil testing by the EPA, federal standards. We've been through these projects for 15 to 20 years where there's contamination in these sites. And I'm not saying it is here, But clearly, you might want to make sure that as you destroy buildings, you're going to have to show soil samples and soil testing, and not to the state regulations, to the EPA. Okay, they're more stringent. You've got to do more things, and you're going to hold up fields if you find contamination. Look at the high school. It was budgeted. This is through the RTM. We allowed it to happen. It was budgeted for 28 million. Do you know what the cost is today? Anyone here at Turner know the cost for the remediation? Because I'm looking for it. I believe it's $70 million. Western Middle School, after the fact the project was approved by the RTM, there was an estimated $12 to $15 million remediation program. That's going on bonds, long-term bonds is going on the taxpayer for the interest to be paid. Serious problems that need to be addressed for the kids. How many of you have kids in the schools here or grandkids? You get on a couple of these fields where they have artificial turf, got little black balls that there has been no health study done on the danger of those health balls, which are rubber. It's called PCBs in the environmental areas. Okay? That's
30
it.
seconds.
Thank you very much, and appreciate the time you all have put in on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. The next three speakers, Christine Edwards, Mark Abbott, and Jillian Mason. Is Christine in the room? Okay, Mark Abbott? Okay.
Hi, I'm Mark Abbott, and I live at the corner of Indian Rock Lane and Orchard Street, and traffic has already been mentioned there. But what I'd like to know is what is the sort of impact going to be when construction begins, and if someone can just talk about how that's going to work, especially the traffic aspect, what considerations are being made there.
Just a friendly reminder, the format of our public hearing is to receive input from the public rather than questions and answers. We've been doing that. However, Mr. Abbott, what I would suggest is you send us an email, which we're going to put up on the screen later. Ask that question, and we will be sure to reply to you. That is really a Turner construction question, and I'll commit that we will be sure to respond to your question. Thank you. Next two speakers, Janet McMahon and Harris Damashik. Is Janet McMahon here?
Tony, did we skip over Julian Mason?
I'm sorry, we did. Is Julian Mason in the room? Thank you, Mike, for the reminder. Julian Mason. Okay. Janet McMahon. Is Janet with us?
She is online.
Janet's online. Okay, good.
All right, Ms. McMahon, if you would like to unmute, you can go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight. My name is Janet McMahon, and I'm a parent of a 6th grader at Central Middle School. My son just graduated from CMS and is now a freshman at Greenwich High School. I would like to state for the record that my family continues to advocate for the new Central Middle School to be built as soon as possible. As mentioned earlier, according to DTC Engineering and Consulting, the repairs made to Central Middle School's walls and facades are temporary and are, quote, only serviceable for a period not to exceed 5 years. As the clock started ticking in February 2022, when the repairs were made, I'd like to remind our community that we have less than 3.5 years left on the clock. Sadly, we were once on track for my daughter to attend the new school by the spring of her 8th grade year, but that seems to be a pipe dream at this point. How did we get here? When the school was condemned and shuttered in February of 2022, I seem to recall some BET members wringing their hands and making bold promises about prioritizing the construction of CMS. The uproar was off the charts when my son and 500 of his peers were sent to makeshift schools in an EMS auditorium, the Coscob School Library, or the GHS cafeteria. So why are we here more than a year and a half later without a shovel in the ground? Where is that outrage now when we still don't have the funding and the same political talking heads only push to delay building this school? I think I speak for many when I say that the CMS parent community has had enough of the stall tactics. The ed specs have been created, voted on, and approved. The conceptual design and schematics have been created, voted on, and approved. The neighborhood has weighed in with their concerns and given their blessing on said design and schematics. Enough with the election day political shenanigans. Let's get CMS built already. Our Central Middle School students and teachers deserve a safe new school as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McMahon. Our next speaker is Harris Damashek, followed by Claudia Gislason. Is Harris in the room?
I believe they're online.
Okay, good. Thank you.
If you could unmute, you're allowed to speak. The individual online is Lara Damashek, but they're not unmuting.
Last call for either Lara or Harris Damashek. Okay, moving ahead, Claudia Gislason. Is Claudia? I don't see Claudia in the room.
I don't see her online either.
Okay. Our next speaker is Rachel Khanna. Is Rachel with us?
She is online.
Okay, great.
All right, Ms. Khanna, you can speak.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening about Central Middle School. I'm Rachel Khanna. I've been a Greenwich resident for over 20 years, and I'm also the state representative for the 149th district, which covers parts of Greenwich and Stamford. The schools in Greenwich have been on my mind recently because our youngest daughter just graduated from Greenwich High in June, and we dropped her off at college. So as I said, the schools have been on my mind. A couple of important facts. Connecticut public schools are ranked second in the country. And in 2023, Niche ranked the Greenwich Public Schools the #3 best school district in Connecticut. Our schools are what attract families to our town and our state. But that will remain true only if we invest in our school buildings. We've known that Central Middle School needed to be renovated well before February 2022, when it was condemned and closed due to unsafe conditions. And though that should not have happened, we now have an opportunity to build a school that will address the needs of our town and families for many years to come. The Central Middle School Building Committee and the Board of Ed have scoped an appropriate school that will serve our community, address safety concerns, and be a school of the future. They did this painstakingly and over a long period of time. So it's critical that the town of Greenwich approve and undertake this project soon. Continuing to delay will only lead to increased costs. I urge you to support and fully fund the new Central Middle School, and let's get it done. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Representative Khanna, thank you very much. Our next two speakers are Abby Meiselman and Stephen Meskers. Is Abby with us? Abby Meiselman. Mike, do you have her online?
I don't see any of the next several speakers online.
Okay. Let's go to Representative Meskers. Is he with us? Dina Urso. We have Dina here with us.
Good evening. My name is Dina Urso. I'm one of the co-presidents of CMS PTA this year. I'm joined in my comments by Matthew Kane, who is my co-president, but unfortunately he is still at his office. The CMS PTA feels strongly that this project must stay on track by whatever means necessary. We are parents focused on making sure our children receive the best education in a building that is safe, sound, and built for such a purpose. Further delays must be avoided. They add nothing other than expense. We are supportive of the process and are grateful for the time and efforts the building committee members have put towards delivering a new CMS building. The PTA, which is a nonpartisan organization, represents parents who share our focus on making sure our children can go to a school building that meets modern standards that support modern educational methods. We also represent taxpayers who share our support for responsible, effective use of our tax dollars to deliver this school capital project, rather than continuing to kick this can down the road yet again. We have listened to countless building committee, BOE, and BET meetings and know there's a gap in funding that seems to be unsurmountable. It is unfortunate that the BOE, BET, and First Selectman could not get on the same page as to a reasonable budget estimate. But that now is water under the bridge, as it appears that none of these entities accurately predicted the potential cost of construction in 2024 and beyond. Adjustments are required. We understand that. From what we have seen and heard over the last few months, the volunteers involved in this project are working diligently to make sure that whatever cuts are made to the overall project impact programming minimally. As parents, we deeply appreciate this. We, however, have been disheartened by the rancor and finger pointing that has surrounded this project from its inception. The PTA itself has been targeted by some in our community who have tried to paint our voice as something it is not in pursuit of their own agendas. We will not waver from our position as a child advocacy group working for the best interests of CMS students, despite these unfounded attacks by those attempting to mischaracterize our words and actions. We urge those who have politicized this project to stop doing so. The bottom line is this is a school building to teach students in, not a battleground for politicians to campaign upon. In closing, we implore the building committee and town boards to continue to work cohesively to get this project over the finish line. We hope it's clear to everyone how important this building is for the community and our children. Quite simply, this is not a nice to have, it is an educational imperative. Thank you all for your dedication and hard work on the project. The families of CMS truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dina. The next two speakers, the next three, if you will help line up there. First is Mita Valles. Next, after that, Alejandro Quintana and Ira Freemier. Is Mita with us? Okay, moving to the next speaker, Alejandro Quintana.
He is online. I'm going to, he is now allowed to speak. If you unmute yourself, Mr. Quintana.
Yep. Hi there. Can you hear me all right? Yep. Great. My name is Alejandro Quintana. I'm a resident of Cos Cob. I grew up in Greenwich, and my daughter now attends North Street School. My family moved back to Greenwich from the West Coast about a year ago. For me, it was a really exciting return to a home I had left back in 2005. And my family and I love being back here in Greenwich. It's such a beautiful place to raise a family, and we feel very fortunate to have and enjoy all the wonderful benefits of our town. However, my wife and I have been dismayed by the state of the public schools. Although the teachers and other parents are absolutely wonderful, and the facilities and the structures show a lack of investment and seem to have been neglected over the years. I would have thought, in the time I had been away from 2005 until now, more work would have been done on the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high school, more renovations, perhaps a new school would have been built. Meanwhile, our neighboring towns have invested heavily in their schools. Just reading online, it seems that Darien has been systemically renovating their elementary schools, spending over 80 million. In Rye, a town, less than a fourth of our population, also invested 80 million. So I'm very excited about this new building. The committee seems to have taken a very thoughtful approach, embracing design thinking, working very closely with educators, with the stakeholders, the residents, and neighbors of the Central Middle School. And I'm very excited for this project to move forward, and look forward to my daughter one day attending the beautiful new Central Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintana. Next is Ira Freemier. Is Ira with us? Next is Liz Tomasino. Is Liz with us? Liz Tomasino? Okay, next is Joe Rossetti. Mr. Rossetti, I know he's here on the front row. By the way, Joe Rossetti is also a member of the Central Middle School Building Committee. Joe, thank you for your service.
Good evening. I am Joe Rossetti. I've enjoyed living in Greenwich for 12 years because of its diversity, our neighborhoods, my neighbors, many amenities, parks and beaches, commerce, trains, the YMCA, relatively low taxes, and educational reputation. I have had the honor and pleasure of being a voting member of the Central Middle School Committee since its early inception last year. My comments are my only. They do not represent the building committees at all. I do not have any children, grandchildren, or relatives who might attend or directly benefit from a new Central Middle School. I am and have been unaffiliated with all political parties for at least 35 years. I've managed large public and commercial construction projects for over 30 years, including private and public schools in Fairfield County. The current estimated cost of the new Central Middle School is $112 million, based on well-developed schematic design, Board of Education's ed specs approved by the state. $112 million is derived from two independent and reconciled takeoff estimates. A third party, Lara Cumming, hired by the building committee, confirmed the magnitude of this estimate. To date, the town via the BET, Board of Selectmen, RTM, has only approved roughly $70 million for this school. This was despite the building committee and Board of Education's much larger funding recommendations and requests that were based on comparable new school costs. The $70 million was not based on any specific drawings, design, details, or estimate. It was, and in essence, a placeholder, and it is clearly inadequate funding to build the new school. Over the last few months, the building committee and project team completed its rigorous study and review of over 100 value management options mentioned earlier in our discussion to reduce cost while maintaining a prudent adherence to the approved Board of Education specs. Many were adopted and thereby reduced cost by millions to the current $112 million. Except for minor adjustments, I do not believe we can achieve any further cost reductions without unacceptable wholesale changes to the building, the site, or the Board of Education specs. I do not know the motives for some elected officials who do not support adequate funding of this or any other Greenwich school project. Perhaps they do not support the Board of Ed specs guidance. Perhaps they do not see great value in supporting our educational system. Maybe they feel lower funding will maintain lower taxes and it might enhance their chances for upcoming re-election. Whatever their reason, I believe it's short-sighted. It would certainly delay the CMS project significantly, if not completely cancel it. And it will reduce the quality of education for our children and lessen the overall quality of life in our Greenwich community. I encourage you and our entire community to support our educational system, the new CMS project, the building committee's recommendation of $112 million total appropriation. I also recommend we all learn the respective CMS opinion and stances of their candidates for local office and vote accordingly this fall. That will make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Our next three speakers, Stephanie Cowie, Bob Cheney, and Jennifer Behet. Stephanie is in the room. By the way, Stephanie is also a member of the committee as one of our liaisons. Stephanie, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Hold on, going up, and here we go. All right, good evening. My name is Steph Cowie, and I'm a Greenwich resident of 23 years. I'm active in our community with the JLG United Way of Greenwich and the American Red Cross. Additionally, I've held leadership roles at GPS Public Schools, PTA, most recently as the GHS co-president, CMS co-president, and serve as a committee member on GHS Vestibule and former Cardinal Stadium. The CMSBC, I serve as obviously Tony said, First Selectman Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, and I am the liaison. I share this background as I have some experience in the building committee and town processes. Because of these experiences, I have learned that over the past 15 years, there have been precedents with other projects in working through other commissions, different commissions in town that have received funding and or an appropriation interim without an MI, a final site plan. Unfortunately, the CMSBC has learned that the town charter section 99 will not allow any appropriation for this project until MI status is granted based on the legal opinion from our town attorney. No prior precedence is allowed to assist in working through the Town of Greenwich 1951 charter requirements. This late charter enlightenment by some BET members will undoubtedly cause a significant delay and cost to the project. This felt more like a gotcha moment and not a collaborative discussion to see how to resolve this issue in a timely manner. For over 1 year, the Central Middle School Building Committee has been thorough and deliberative in all progressions of this project, understanding the different priorities of the community. This project has had tremendous oversight and eyes on it. Since May, the project costs have been clear and have not changed materially. It was clear to everyone that an interim would be needed to complete this project above the BET budget of 70 million. The estimates were peer and independently verified to the actual market rate. The appropriation of 42 million to support the following in the completion of Central Middle School, build to the approved Board of Educational specifications, the ed specs to deliver the curriculum. Allow us the ability to apply to the state immediately versus June 2024 to be included in the priority list for state reimbursement. Support traffic study, provide a safe campus and school meeting
30
the
seconds.
regulatory requirements of the current building code and ADA. Additionally, we are under a time constraint to move the students from the old school to the new. If you all recall, the exigent repairs will prevent the sudden failure of these facades due to failure existing wall tiles, and is, I quote, serviceable for only not a period to exceed 5 years. Without this appropriation, this project will continue to incur significant escalation costs at approximately $12,500 per day. At this time, it is possible to work together to find a solution to deliver a quality CMS school for immediate community and greater Greenwich. Doing this will allow the town of Greenwich to not be under tremendous risk regarding the current school's viability and isn't financially prudent. I thank you all of the CMSBC members, Board of Ed, Group GPS, and our neighbors and our volunteers who are doing this for their continual engagement in this project. We are a lucky town to have so many volunteers in support of this effort, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Stephanie. Our next three speakers, Bob Cheney, Jennifer Behet, and Michael Wolfson. Bob Cheney.
Good evening. My name is Bob Cheney, and I'm here as a concerned parent who now has 2 students attending Central Middle School, 6th and 8th grade. I first want to thank everyone for their hard work on this project. Being on the Julian Curtis Building Committee, I understand that it's no small task to put your time and energy into this, so thank you. Now, I worry that this project is being slowed down and we cannot delay the construction any further. Others have already spoken about this concern tonight, so I want to focus on why this project needs to be built to the size and scope that is necessary. There's people in town, and some of them even spoke tonight, who want to shrink the size and scope of this project, and they talk about declining student enrollment. This is not a valid reason to shrink the school. The reason Central Middle School needs to be built to the size that it has been put forth is because of the 2-team teaching system. The current student enrollment does not matter. It's the amount of classrooms needed that matter. Now, I was going to go into further detail in this, but I feel like Principal Healy and the amazing slideshow did a better job than I would be able to do. I'd also like to bring up that the rooms here currently are only 600 square feet, much smaller than the classrooms that are being designed now. With the average classroom size being 24 students, the room in the new school need to be at least 800 square feet. I mean, we also need to take into consideration that this building was built in the 1950s. They didn't allocate for special ed space or a media center. As I just mentioned, they also didn't take into account the necessity of larger classroom sizes that naturally increase due to ADA and modern building code compliance. It's also not possible to go smaller than the 2-team system, which, by the way, is also used at Eastern Middle School and Western Middle School. Look, I understand there's people in this town that want to make sure money is not being thrown away by building a school that is too large. These people need to understand that the size and scope of the project needs to stay as it is. This is so that we can give our children who attend Central Middle School the kind of educational space that is required, a 2-team middle school model. This needs to happen so that our children can thrive and get the education that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Our next speaker, excuse me, Jennifer Behet, and then followed by Michael Wolfson. Jen Behet.
Good evening, building committee members and our professionals. My name is Jennifer Behet, and I am the parent of a current 8th grader at CMS and a future student at CMS next school year. You can't get rid of me, Mr. Healy, sorry. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your hard work thus far. I've attended many building committee meetings online over the course of the year and have seen firsthand the extraordinary time and effort put forth. I applaud the efforts of those who have continually sought to maintain the path of getting this school built, those who have remained steadfast and dedicated despite numerous attempts of others to delay and derail this project. Bottom line, this is about the students. They not only need a new building, but they deserve a safe and dynamic environment in which to thrive. I fully support this project, and I'm looking forward to shovels in the ground soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Next, Michael Wolfson, followed by Anne Marie Klein.
My name is Michael Wolfson, and I am a resident of Coach Lamplain. I've been there for 40 years, and it's the first time I've heard of Orchard Street as being described as a raceway, but it certainly is. I understand the current plan for bus access to the building will be about 50 feet south of the entrance to Coach Lamplain off Orchard Street. There are 20 homes on Coach Lamplain, and there's an additional 16 homes that have driveways facing Orchard Street between Indian Rock Lane and the junction with Stanwich Road. And I understand that the principal function of the committee is to create the appropriate educational environment, but I think that issues of safety and traffic are paramount as well. As I mentioned, I have almost 40 years of experience driving, biking, running, and walking from Coach Lamplain to Indian Rock Lane and experiencing the curve south of the proposed bus entrance. Generally, vehicles traveling north aim to get at least the front two wheels of their vehicle fully over both of the double lines. In addition, currently, parents park on Orchard Street just north of the stop sign at Indian Rock to pick up their kids well before school is over. And there's no enforcement of any parking restrictions around the building. So I think that the bus access needs to be relooked at, and we need to know whether that access to CMS will be locked and closed when the buses are not functioning. Thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfson. Next is Anne Marie Klein, followed by Hector Arzino. Anne Marie Klein, are you with us? Okay, and then next is Representative Hector Arzino. Representative Arzino, are you here?
He is online.
He is online. Fantastic.
Mr. Arzino, if you unmute, you may speak.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Very good. Thank you very much. My name is Hector Arzeno, and I am the state representative for the 151st District and also a member of the District 8 RTM, which includes Central Middle School and some of its feeder elementary schools. And I am sorry I can't be there tonight to express my support for this project in person, but I want to express my unwavering support for this school because it is the right one for our community. Central Middle School students deserve a school that meets their needs, one that allows them to be educated in a safe environment, and one that is welcoming and accessible to all. For too long, our buildings have been allowed to fall into despair and then language with needed updates that go unfunded. This school needs to be funded so it can be completed on time and students can move in for the 2026 school year. The new school will be an asset to our community, one that keeps our district vibrant and attracts new families. I want also to express my gratitude to the building committee for the work. And if I call upon, I stand ready to help you in any way without any hesitation I can in Hartford. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Orsino, and I'll say that it is fantastic that we've had two of our three state representatives to be tuned in and to be a part of our group tonight. I'm sure Representative Meskers was detained in his role as representative, but we want to be very sure to thank the three of you for chiming in and being a part of the effort. Our next two speakers, Julie Deschamps and Mark Abrams. Julie, are you here? Julie is making her way. And then Mark Abrams, that is our last speaker. And then we'll go to our stay informed slide on the screen. Julie.
Thank you to the building committee and the professionals for your time and efforts. I appreciate the focus on sustainability in your design and details, but want to voice my concerns about a recent committee decision. There's a Asante proverb: if you want to plant something for me, plant peanuts, not corn. Why peanuts? Well, peanuts remain in the ground and form vines. Planting peanuts is a forward-looking, long-lasting decision for the farmer. On the other hand, corn is uprooted and destroyed every season. The majority of the CMS Building Committee planted corn, not peanuts, for our community. They rejected the alternative one, geothermal option, which promised a ground source heat pump and geothermal wells, the system with the greatest energy efficiency and the most cost-effective. Thornton Tomasetti identified this as the best option, and Chair Turner gave a strong argument in favor. Yet the decision relied not on the professionals' recommendations, data, or case studies, but instead, it appears, skepticism and misinformation. These committee members passed up a geothermal-based system that offered the smallest upfront expense and the lowest 50-year cost. They said no to the Inflation Reduction Act grants and investment tax credits totaling 40% of the cost. They lost the opportunity to save significantly on future operational expenses by rejecting the most energy efficient system, one which approached net zero energy. Why choose a fossil fuel driven system over highly efficient and dependable renewable energy technology? Why make such a short-sighted decision? Why choose corn over peanuts? Taxpayers have a right to know why. This was a poor decision for the resilience of our community and our town's fiscal outlook. Instead of a more sustainable future, the committee has planted corn for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next is Mark Abrams, and Mark is our last speaker. Is Mark with us? Mike, do you have Mark online?
I am not seeing an Abrams online. I did before, but they are no longer online.
Okay, thank you very much. Then let's go to our last slide and wrap up our meeting this evening. If we could put the stay informed slide back up, would be fantastic. Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to introduce a couple of things that are on the screen. First is visit the GPS website. It's greenwichschools.org/CMSBC. You'll see the QR code in the upper left-hand corner on the screen. Some of them have been posted around the wall this evening. We would strongly encourage you to visit this website. On the website, you will find videos, that is video recordings, and answers to over 200 questions collectively that we have received from the community over our three community forums prior to tonight. Someone asked earlier about environmental documents. If you click on the related documents tab, you will see a lot of soil testing results. You'll see the traffic study. Also, we have the ed specs online. And you can also see the almost five now, the 4 quarterly reports that we are required by town charter to provide to the RTM. So there's a tremendous amount of information there, meeting minutes and so forth. So we would really like to encourage you to take a look at that. Secondly, let us hear from you. We do not think tonight, as we go forward, is the last time that we will have a community forum. And we want to be sure to hear from you between those meetings. And you see on the screen here is the email at Gmail. Here we go. cmsbc.ctinfo@gmail.com. We're all volunteers, but we do commit that if you will send us an email to that address, we will get back to you. Give us a little time to do that. But we've set that up some time ago to make sure that we can stay connected with the community. We are to our last item on the agenda, which is to adjourn. Any other business to come before the committee? Thank you very much for coming out tonight, be you in our broadcast audience or here in the room. We really, really value your input, and let's continue the dialogue as we move forward. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending.